This investigation involved a grow operation, but it involved an unusual crop being grown in that it was opium poppies that were being grown, which is not typically seen in our country. And the only other time we've really come across a commercial level grow like this was back in 2010 in Chilliwack, BC. So on July 4th, the investigators from our Edge section, they executed a search warrant at a rural property that was located near 34th Street and 195 Avenue in our city. And it was there that they came across a crop of opium poppies, about 60,000 plants being grown in a backfield at that location. Now, opium poppies, they can be used to produce a number of substances with significant analgesic effects to them, such as heroin and morphine and other such opioids. And as such, this crop could have been worth up to $500,000. And it's because of that too that opium poppies, they are listed as a Schedule I drug in our Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, which refers to the high-risk drugs and substances that are found in our society. So, yeah, the investigators, they continued their investigation into the property. Now, they didn't find any indications that heroin was being produced at this particular site. However, they did locate poppy seeds and Dota powder on site. Now, Dota powder is known for being brewed as a tea, which in turn will create those analgesic effects from consuming it. Now, as a result of the investigations, there's 4 individuals that were charged with production of a controlled substance. Those individuals are Sukhdeep Danoa, 43 years of age, Gurpreet Singh, 30 years of age, Kulwinder Singh, 40 years of age, and Sandeep Dandiwal, 33 years of age. Now, we just want to take this opportunity as well, just to provide a warning and a reminder to the public that consuming any opioids outside the direction of a doctor or consuming any illicitly produced substance can cause serious harm to the individual, it can create addictions, and in turn it can cause great harm to our communities. So it was good work by these investigators to locate and destroy this crop before it was able to be sent out and cause that harm to our community. Any questions at all?
Hello. Sarah with CBC. You said that heroin was not being produced here. I mean, would it be suspected that this was going to be sold somewhere else in Canada, sold overseas, or like, do you kind of know what the intent of what they wanted to do with this
Again,
crop?
and the investigators determined this is probably a commercially grown crop for Dota, which is, again, it's brewed as a tea that's consumed and provides that type of analgesic effect.
So do we think that that would have been sold here?
Yes,
Yeah.
we believe that would have been.
Katya Bates from Canadian Press, are you able to say anything about how this form was discovered or how the plants were discovered?
I can turn you over to Staff Sergeant Marco Antonio, who is part of those investigations, and he'll help you with those questions. Thank you.
Hello. Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Just how police found or discovered these plants, did someone report them?
We received some information on the property that kind of led us there, and then we were able to make our own observations and form the grounds to believe that this was actually being grown there, which then allowed us to get the search warrant.
And was it just these poppies that were being grown there? Was it just a farm as well?
There was a bunch of like trucks and other vehicles on site, but the crops, it was only this being grown.
If you folks can just use the microphone too, just so we can get it on the stream as well. Thanks.
Jasmine from Global Edmonton. I don't know who might be best to answer this question, but you said that the other biggest one was in Chilliwack, but has there been any like other similar, like even at a smaller scale around like the Edmonton area at all?
Yes, I can say from talking to frontline officers in patrol, we did come across like individual plants being grown by people the odd time. Calgary, I believe, had also a smaller scale one, but nothing in this scale. We haven't seen anything like that.
What really differentiates like the poppies that are used for opium compared to like if someone with they didn't know, they weren't informed and they saw poppies? I mean, how can they tell the difference between these things?
Rochelle would definitely be the best one to answer that.
They do have a different physical appearance, and so opium poppies come from the species Papaver somniferum, and the poppy genus of plants is quite large. There's lots of different species within that genus of plants. But that particular species, Papaver somniferum, it's got characteristic petals and characteristic leaves that help to identify the plant. And it is capable of then producing those opioid alkaloids. So there are some characteristics in the leaves of this plant here that are indicative of this being Papaver somniferum. The petals themselves, it's a 4-petal structure, and that's quite different from other types of poppies that we see growing here in North America.
From my understanding, they don't grow in this kind of climate. Would it have been imported? How does that work exactly?
They're not native to North America, but they can grow in this climate with certain care. And so it does depend on the type of soil as well as requiring fertilization. And there was indication of that happening at this particular location. But they can grow in this climate. They prefer other types of climates around the world.
I don't have the exact figures off the top of my head, how much it sells for. You can obviously get it on the illicit market. And as far as sources that you could go to get it, I'm not 100% sure. Like, this isn't something that we commonly see. And obviously, like the Edmonton Drug and Gang Enforcement section, our focus is on the synthetic opioids that are doing the majority of the overdoses. But this was something very unique, and this wasn't a large time investment. It was a very quick turnaround on this investigation.
In terms of, like, you're kind of mentioning that we don't see this very often, there's only been a handful. I guess one, is this something that we could see a little bit more of? And then two, I guess sort of what role does this play in the illicit market? Like, is this replacing something else? Is this just an additional drug that can be sold? Would the intention, could you see it turned into heroin here, or is it mostly just that powder?
Well, the powder, the DOTA itself, probably that's not typically how you would get to heroin. So there's other processes that need to be involved with chemicals to get it from the latex that the opium poppy pods will secrete, which has the alkaloid in it, and then you'll have to do a bunch of processing to get it to heroin. So it's possible, not in the way that we believe it was being used, and again, like, probably not going to see it. We don't see it very often because it's not the climate for it. So to do this and to grow it on this scale would take a lot of effort.
This was discovered July 4th. It's October. So is there, like, the reason it's being announced now, 3 months or 4 months later, was that because that arrest had to be made? Was there an investigation had to come afterwards?
Yes, there was a bunch of things that occurred. Obviously with the samples, because they're live plants, we had to dry them, submit them to Health Canada to get that information back and then lay the charges. And we also have a whole bunch of other investigations on the go that are on the side of this. So now is just when we're able to put it all together for you.
Do you know anything more about how these plants were brought over to Alberta?
We do not know.
Elliot Knop with City News. You mentioned that it can be made into a tea. Can you tell me a little bit more about the tea, the risk to the public? Is it illegal? Just, those would be great.
Sure, Rochelle can answer that.
Lower? So the powder or the ground poppy straw can be used to make a tea. It could be combined with alcohol also. It could be used in different forms and manners. And it contains opium alkaloids, including morphine and codeine, which can pose a risk for toxicity. And there have been cases of overdose and death arising from consumption of poppy pod tea or poppy seed tea. Obviously, it's not as immediately toxic or acutely toxic as some of the synthetic opioids that we see, but it does still pose a risk to people who are using it. And if there is a little bit of a cultural association or cultural use in some cultures, the use of poppy pod or poppy seed tea. But it does pose a risk for toxicity and addiction or physical dependence with repeated use over time.
And it is illegal.
It's illegal. It's a Schedule I substance here in Canada. Yeah.
Do you know how much of it was sold by the suspects?
We don't have any information on that. The actual field itself was not, I think we said 5 to 7 days away from being at the level it would need to actually be able to start processing it, to get those alkaloids out of the pods to then make the Dota tea or future processing. But we don't know how much they were selling.
And you said you don't know how it was brought over to Alberta, but do you know, like, were the suspects the ones who brought it over, or like how might?
We
have
also
they
don't know
gotten
that. There was poppy seeds located, so we believe that it was obviously strategically planted. It was planted for cultivation.
What do you think this signifies, sir, that someone's willing to plant this in an open field? That's something that can easily spot, and they're willing to say, hey, let's just go for that, let's go that.
It wasn't actually that easy to spot. There was obviously the house in the way, and then there's some makeshift plywood that would seem to kind of block it from view a little bit. So there was some indication that there was some attempts to hide it. But as far as what this indicates, obviously I think it was someone looking to obviously cash in from this product that can be made from it.
And sorry, I think you said earlier that police received a report, and that's how they responded. Do you know who it was? Like, was it a neighbor, or was it?
I can't say exactly who would tell us that stuff.
Sorry if this was already mentioned, but can you maybe just stack this up to maybe the last time you found a poppy seizure of this size, and how common this is overall?
Oh, it's not common at all. Looking as much as I could dig, I could only find one large-scale opium poppy grow, which was back in 2010 in Chilliwack, BC. We have never seen anything like this in the Edmonton region, or in Alberta, I believe, for that matter. And this opium poppy, we had one investigation from back in 2018 in our drug and gang enforcement section, but that was imported over dried poppy heads. It wasn't planted here.
The Chilliwack case, do you know how many plants were seized in that case?
It was approximately 3 times the size of this one.
Okay. So is it accurate to report this is maybe the second largest in Canada, or is that still not determined?
I would say, from what I could find, that yes, this would be the second largest.
Any other questions?
Are you able to say anything more about like how these plants are farmed, like how long it takes to grow them, anything like that?
Can you speak to that?
Yeah, kind of more specifically about the growing cycle. It's hard to say here in Canada. A lot of the research is conducted in other parts of the world where the plants are more native, but it takes several months from planting to the time that you would harvest the poppies.
Sir, you might have explained this already, can you explain, sorry, explain the legality of the possession of the seeds to the planting, not to go through the entire process, but the distribution and then the processing again into something more insidious, the different
Yeah.
legalities of each step.
All of it is illegal here in Canada. So these plants are used to produce opioids that are used in medicine, but that is not something that is done in large scale here in Canada. It's primarily done in other parts of the world. So any part of that processing, from planting, growing, harvesting this particular species of poppy, is illegal in Canada. So any part of that process is not permissible. Certain research groups have permission from Health Canada to conduct research, but that requires an exemption from the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act for that purpose.
Could these seeds have been gathered by mail, or they would have had to be transported in on a person?
No, they could have been sent by mail. That's possible. Yeah.
And then when they're harvested, like, do you need a separate, like, was there a separate area on the farm where it was turning into powder, or like, was that taking place on the property as well?
No, there's no indication of that taking place on the farm.
Where did they turn it into powder?
We don't know.
I know obviously we're talking about the poppies aren't typically grown here, but is the Dota tea prevalent in Canada on the illicit market at all?
It has a presence, and I would say opium and Dota and dried poppy pods and poppy straw are intercepted being imported into Canada by the Canada Border Services Agency. And so it is something that we do see in that realm. How prevalent it is, it's difficult to say because it's not being frequently seized by law enforcement in Alberta. It is occasionally seized, but not regularly.
And then, I mean, they are proving that it can be grown here, obviously with care. And it seems like there's a relatively low barrier to access to stuff like this if it's not intercepted. So is that concerning at all that we could see more of it if it is, with climate change and stuff? Could it be grown here more prevalently?
It theoretically could be grown here. It's against the law, so I would recommend that people don't do that because it is a Schedule I substance, just like heroin and methamphetamine and cocaine. So it's something that I don't advise the public to go about doing. Yeah.
But like investigators aren't that concerned that there's going to be, a popularity in growing this.
No.
Okay, cool.
Are you, sorry, you said that you don't know how much of it was sold, but do you know, how does it work? Does it get sold by the pound or per gram? How does it work?
I wouldn't have any of that information on me. Obviously, it's sold in the powder form if you're looking for Dota. But as far as what the typical consumer would be buying for quantity, I don't know.
And how much Dota tea can 60,000 plants produce?
I don't have that information either. Some of the research that I did through with the DEA, a field of 1 acre, which is about just a little bit bigger than this, you could get about 3 to 5 kilograms of the morphine base, which is the latex that actually comes out of the poppy. So you can get quite a lot. It's pretty substantial.